What is going on, everybody? It is Alex coming back at you with another video, and today Joe Marino dropped his mock draft 3.0. So of course we're going to be giving our thoughts on it as well as continuing it for a second round. Yes, that is probably what makes this channel special in this regard, because a lot of people like to do mock the mocks, but I wanted to make sure that I add my own little personal twist, have some fun, and be able to continue it, because then you guys get to see my board, you get to see what's fun about it. So let's kick right into the video. So again, we're gonna do everything we can to just obviously I've already seen it because I have to preload the draft. Obviously there's a lot of picks I disagree with, and that's gonna be the same with every single mock draft. So we'll give our thoughts. We'll try to be a little bit more cordial here because going attack dog on Joe, who I have respect for, not exactly gonna be my prerogative. Now, if there's somebody who I don't have respect for, we'll get after him. But still, number one overall, Bryce Young goes to the Detroit Lions. Again, I think that it's not a bad pick at all. Again, you have that chemistry there. You traded up for Jameson Williams last year. I assume you guys felt like you guys might have the number one pick. That's why you wanted to give a shot at Bryce Young and JMO. And I'm not against it. I'm not. Now, do I think that Bryce Young will solve everything for the team? No. But it could be the piece that you put in there. And I would not be against it at all. I wouldn't. Like, if this happens, I'm not mad. And I know my Detroit Lions fans are definitely mad about it because I'll put money on it. I'll put $1 billion that at least John is going to be losing his mind down in the comment section below. I just think if you can trade back with a team that's desperate for a quarterback, pick up extra picks, and then be able to select somebody, let's just say Tanner McKee at the end of the first, or any of these guys, again, Anthony Richardson could come out, but you do have the potential to really maximize your value by getting someone like Jalen Carter and then going after a lower ceiling quarterback later on. Now, does that put you in championship contention? Probably not. Could Bryce Young? Potentially. So I understand if that's where you're trying to go after, and again, that is kind of the goal of the NFL, is to win a championship. But I don't know if Bryce Young stepping into the team gives you that opportunity right away, and I don't know if this team's ready for the next 1 or 2 years to do that. So it really depends on your time window in terms of when you want to get a new signal caller. It's not a bad pick at all. Again, if I'm getting potentially another first-round pick to be able to move back, then I'd be considering it. But for now, it's a good pick because, again, you get that chemistry. You have a great offensive line. You have great weapons. I think it's a good start. Then you got Will Anderson to the Texans. I think you need to pull a trigger on a QB here. Again, if another team pulls trigger on quarterback, you're kind of screwed because then you're getting pretty much the leftovers. And if I'm not mistaken, that might have happened. But, Will Anderson's a great player. It's very hard to criticize a pick with Will Anderson. But when you do analyze it, it's like Davis Mills is not the answer. I think Jared Goff could be more the answer than Davis Mills is. So that's probably why I'm a little bit more hesitant on the Lions going a QB than the Texans. But again, you got to go after it. You got to go after a quarterback at that point, man. You really do. But the Texans going Will Anderson is a very good second. Panthers getting C.J. Stroud. Again, if that's what's left on the table, very happy to say that's the right pick to go with. Eagles going Myles Murphy. We've been talking about this. If Will Anderson and Myles Murphy are on the board, if I'm Philadelphia and let's just say the Texans are sitting right behind me and they want to go after Will Anderson, we're in a presumed mock, I would say, hey, do a pick swap. Again, be able to add in maybe a third-round pick, a fourth-round pick, because Howie knows how to maximize damn draft capital because he's a freaking G. And then you could still select Myles Murphy, who's a little bit more of a scheme fit than Will Anderson. Again, you already have that semi-undersized edge rusher for your scheme in Hassan Reddick, and he's doing a very good job. Myles Murphy has that BG / Josh Sweat build and / Derek Barnett, 265 plus, and I think that is a little bit better of a fit. You guys called me out on it, and I'm 100% respectful of that. I love Myles Murphy. Again, he's my number one player in the draft. I cannot crap on the fact that Myles Murphy's a stud, but it's like you're really it's hard to pass on Will Anderson if he is there. Regardless, it's a great scheme fit. But I will say one other player that I'd want to toss in here is Jalen Carter, because Jalen Carter really is special, and there's a huge drop-off after him. I think defensive lineman 2 for me is or interior 2, might end up being Tyler Davis out of Clemson. I think he's an absolute stud. I think he's better than Brian Breesy, which we'll talk about soon. But again, Gervon Dexter's looking a bit inconsistent. I'm a little bit worried about that. But you could, the drop-off is just significant. That's the bottom line. The drop-off's significant, and the drop-off at edge is not. So you could still pick up. And I have this guy He's going to be a first-round pick. I just have that gut feeling. Isaiah McGuire out of Missouri. But if he's not, literally perfect. He's 275 at 6'4". Like, he is the exact build. And he reminds me a lot of Miles. Like, he is spectacular, man. Big fan of both of those guys. But that's going to be a pick you could probably make at the end of the first. So for me, I'm saying, hey, I'm willing to give up on Miles Murphy to get a really stellar player because I know that the drop-off is not nearly as much later on. Of course, free agency is going to change all of this. It depends on who they sign. Do they bring Javon Hargrave back? Do they bring Fletcher back? It really depends on that. However, given the fact that we know that 2 interiors are up for a contract and you could get a very unique player and save some money in that regard, I think that would be the best move. But again, we're nitpicking here. I just want to put my 2 cents there. Texans then going Will Levis. So I assume, if we went after CJ Stroud, I think the Panthers would still go Will Levis. So you're down to Miles Murphy or Will Anderson. I think I'd much rather take my choice of quarterback and then let it be up to the Eagles to give me the sloppy seconds of 2 ungodly edge rushers rather than having, Will Levis be the one guy who fell to me. So that's where I'm at with that. Then I'm not a fan of this one. Brian Breesy to the Seahawks. I just talked about it. I don't even think he's the best defensive tackle on his own team. He flashes and has some crazy, crazy games, but you do see the inconsistency. He gets injured, and he just had a recent week where it was like a 40 PFF grade. He had 1 pressure. So I love the consistency of Tyler Davis. I think that guy's an absolute stud. I graded him higher than Brian Breesy at the start of the year. I put Breesy above him because of the fact that I kind of felt I might have been wrong. But the more I've seen, the more I feel almost validated in that aspect. So I'm just saying Brian Breesy is probably the most overrated player in the draft, not named Jalen Duncan. But we'll continue, and we'll talk about him later. Jaguars going Jordan Addison. I'm perfectly fine with it. I think he's an absolute stud. I just don't know if he and Christian Kirk are too similar of a style. That's why I like Quentin Johnston, a much bigger wide receiver who can take up a lot of space, and he's actually super dynamic. And he's my number 1 wide receiver. So again, you're getting wide receiver 2. I'm just concerned about the fact that Zay Jones is your one more possession style of player, like possession, if we're going to talk Madden terms here. But he's like your big target is essentially somebody who got cut from the Bills, which, it's kind of hard to stay on the Bills given how great they are. But still, Jordan Addison, good player. Again, I'm just concerned about that scheme or the scheme conflict. Then you got Jalen Carter here to the Raiders. I feel like I just have this weird feeling that Joe is going to be either a Raiders or a Panthers fan given the randomization of the picks. But obviously, if the board fell like this, that's a dream. That's everything. That's the best pick possible. I'd take him at 2. I'd take him at 1 if I were the Raiders. I'd probably trade back, but in a no-trade mock, if they're at 1, I'm taking Jalen Carter. I don't care. Pick number 9, the Steelers going Keely Ringo. Given the fact that one of the defensive linemen are not on the board, I totally support this. Yeah, you should probably go offensive line, but, when you can get a talent of Keely Ringo's stature, really damn good athlete, he's been tested in the 4.3s, if I'm not mistaken, and he's just a very good size, very good impress. I think that it's honestly an excellent foundation for a very prime defense where this team lives off of its defensive identity. You have the quarterback, your offensive line needs help, you have the weapons, but your defense, the secondary is probably the one thing that I'm most scared about. And you just paid Minka, you might as well not have him be the one guy who's capable in that secondary. So Keely Ringo, I'm a big fan of. Bears going Broderick Jones. Just talked about Isaiah McGuire. He made me really question Broderick Jones. Very, very worried whether he's actually going to pan out in the NFL because, just to be blunt, Broderick Jones looked like a 5th rounder. And I'm a huge fan of Broderick Jones. I had him as a first. He was one of the 2 guys who had a first-round grade on at the start of the year. And at offensive tackle, of course. But I'm watching him and it's holy crap. Is this just a bad game? But Isaiah McGuire's then putting up 7 pressures elsewhere. So maybe it was Isaiah. So I don't know. I would just say watch out. Definitely watch the game. There's a channel, and obviously I'm not getting paid to do this. I just want to give a shout out to him because when there's not all 22 tape out, it's excellent because, again, you get to watch offensive line and defensive line very well. Do a barrel roll. So he's a channel on YouTube. He only has a couple thousand subs, only gets a couple of views per video, but he posts pretty much the entire game. But it's segmented in offense and defense. And that's where I watched Missouri versus Georgia and then Georgia versus Missouri in terms of offensive to defensive lines. And that's 1 where I fell in love with Javon Foster, but 2 where I fell in love with Isaiah McGuire. and out of love with Broderick Jones. So it's there for you guys to watch. It's not a secret. You guys just need to go watch it. And I think he's absolutely incredible. I have him as a top 10 player in the class. And Broderick Jones, I have still in the top 20. He's great. I'm just a little bit concerned. Trent Simpson's next for the Falcons. Again, low value position with a super high ceiling player. You just got rid of Deion Jones, so I do understand. But I really want to just give some time for the other linebackers in there to really take a step up. You have really good edge rushers. You have really good corners on the board. There's just much more valuable positions than linebacker, in my opinion, especially at this spot. So next we got Bijan to a team that maximizes running backs' potentials. Don't understand why you're spending your 1 first-round pick on it when you're very talented at making the most out of very little. Like, again, I don't think you need to go for a super high-level talent when you do have holes at linebacker, at corner. Like, there's stud corners here. Obviously, I don't know what happened to, I think he got injured, but Trill Williams, like, from Syracuse. He was a baller. I had a 3rd-round grade on him. I loved him. Obviously went UDFA, ended up in your squad, and it actually started sticking to the roster. So I think you go back to Syracuse and go after another Williams and Garrett Williams, and that's a perfect fit, especially if Byron Jones doesn't make the roster next year. Like, I certainly think that's an excellent move. Brian Branch, another stud. So you can just go after a plethora of picks that are much better than Bijan Robinson, in my opinion. Cardinals going edge rusher. Again, I like to go edge from time to time for the Cardinals, but I seriously think, I don't know if they're going to pay Trayvon Mullen or if they have. I don't believe they have. I would have seen it. But regardless, you have Byron Murphy and then Trayvon Mullen, who hasn't even been re-signed yet. And then what, right? Like, you have Marco Wilson. He had his first interception like last week. So good for him. I'm very happy to see that. But you really, in a passing league, you need corners. And you have Joey Porter there if you want to go after someone who's great versus the run. You have Garrett Williams there, who's an amazing man-to-man corner. There's a plethora of options that are great for the team. If you want to go offensive line, there's good offensive linemen on the board. There's just many better positions to go with at this pick specifically than an edge rusher. And I'm not there with Tyree Wilson in the first yet, but I do definitely see his potential. He's a great-looking player. But I'm just saying let's hold the horses on being able to put him as a top 15 pick. Next, we have the Commanders going Joey Porter. I'm fully fine with it. I love Joey Porter. I can't really complain. Really good player. He's a top 5 player on my board. Peter Skoronski for the Packers. I love it. That's a dream spot for Skoronski to go. Obviously staying up there. Is Northwestern? Northwestern is not. It's in Illinois, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's in, I'm tripping on the name, but it's up north of Chicago. So I believe that, it's a great spot for him to be in. Obviously very local to Green Bay, and he's a really talented player. They've done a very good job with guard/tackle hybrids. I think they can do the same with Peter Skoronski. New England Patriots going Quentin Johnston. Awesome. Huge fan of that pick. Quentin's the best wide receiver in this class. You just see it. Watch the Oklahoma State game. Watch TCU versus pretty much anybody. Except SMU. He didn't perform well versus SMU. I don't know what the hell we were doing. I was at the game, so I should probably know. But, they're eating us up everywhere else. Regardless, Quentin Johnston's awesome. Paris Johnson for the Colts. I love it. Again, you need help on the offensive line. He's very versatile. He's been playing very well this year. This is a pick I want to talk about. So, Hendon Hooker. He's 25 years old. I understand if they're like, hey, we need to fill in. Like, we need something. If you have that number 18 overall selection and you're trying to spend it on a quarterback, like, if you are really that confident that one quarterback can continue your legacy, why not try to go after someone like Mac Jones? Like, again, there's potential quarterback controversy there with Bailey Zappi. Or go after Bailey Zappi. Like, whoever's available. You don't need to have them in a 2-quarterback system. They very well might, but we saw Jimmy G go for a 2nd-round pick after going 6-0 when Brady was out, right? So I think that if those guys are available, it's a lot more valuable than spending a first on a quarterback like Hendon Hooker, who we haven't even seen in the NFL, who took a very long time to be able to be this good. And he still overthrows quite a few balls. He's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And he's old. So I just don't see the need to go after a quarterback at 18. Pick number 19, Lions going Cam Smith. I think it's a great spot. Again, good player. I think that Antonio Johnson's a better, more versatile player. But, if you want to build on the boundary, Cam Smith's a good guy to do it. Michael Mayer to the Chargers. Getting a receiving weapon is always a good thing. I don't blame him for doing that at all. So I like it. Ravens going Foskey. I would just like I like the idea, but again, you still have David Ojabo coming in, so I just don't know where exactly he'd fit. It'd be pretty much spending another first on a rotational edge rusher, or just giving the middle finger proverbially to David Ojabo, saying, "Hey, we're bringing in a new face of the edge rushers." When you have Marcus Peters potentially leaving, I think that's just more respectful is to go after and just try to get better DBs. Derek Hall for the Seahawks, he has not earned the right to be a first round pick. He does a very good job and he does have some very high pressure games. And I think he's worth a second round pick. So technically, yes, it's not out of the blue that the Seahawks can go with him in the first, especially since it's the Seahawks, right? But of course, who are we to pretty much blame them for what to do with their recent drafting history? Of course, it seems to be based off of logic more than what they used to. So you never know. I think Isaiah McGuire is a much better fit. I think somebody in the second that they would love is Byron Young from Tennessee because they like Tennessee edge rushers. If I'm going to put my money on an edge rusher that they take, it's probably that one. I think that would be a good option for them. So Derek Hall is still a good player. I just think it's a little bit rich. Bengals going Christian Gonzalez. I mean, hey, yeah, Eli Apple's up for a contract. Hell yeah, I would go Christian Gonzalez. I mean, not like Eli Apple's replacement needs to be that good at all to be actually comparable to Eli Apple, but Christian Gonzalez certainly worth that number 23 overall selection. Titans going Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think that's great. Again, a very good replacement for Robert Woods in the future. Here we go. Jalen Duncan, the most overrated player in the draft, in my opinion. I mean, straight up, this guy has some plays this past week. He actually did a fairly solid job for what I expect of him. But if I'm not mistaken, he's only had one game this year where he did not let up a pressure. He let up 7 versus Michigan. So I don't understand why people think this guy is a first-round caliber player. Talking about him being powerful with plenty of length and mobility, that's Javon Foster. Like, you're describing Javon Foster, not Jalen Duncan here, and they're 1 pound off. Like, I seriously don't know. I do not know what's this love for Jalen Duncan. I don't. The stats don't back it up. The play doesn't back it up. The eye test doesn't back it up. So I just don't get it. It's going to be another busted tackle for the Jets, which is going to suck, but it is what it is. Cowboys going to DeJuan Jones. I know Terrence Steele, if I'm not mistaken, is up for a contract, so I think they bring him back. He's been playing very well. Personally, that's what I would do. But, I don't think DeJuan Jones is worth a first-round pick. I like the idea of offensive line, but there's no way in hell I'd give DeJuan Jones his fat-ass first-round grade, just to be blunt. We'll go back and restudy him, but, man, he was very unimpressive. He's big, but we've seen what happens with these huge-ass tackles. They get injured very often. It's tough on the joints, man, when you're a 6'8" dude who's 360 pounds to just basically handle 50, 60 reps, 70 reps a game. Like, it's tough. So I'd be definitely concerned about the longevity of some of these bigger dudes' careers. Vikings going Darnell Washington. I just don't get it. I mean, I know tight end is a good position for the Vikings, but man, I just don't get the love for Darnell Washington the way that people really think like he is. He just isn't very explosive. He's an excellent guy you can add in for an extra blocker. So let's try to find a team that's like heavy in the run. Let's just talk about the Bears because that's just the first team that's on my mind. I know they have Cole Kmet, but Darnell Washington would definitely boost their running ability because of the fact you pretty much have an extra tackle on the field the whole time. And he's a big target. He has good hands. There's a lot to like about Darnell. I mean, I'd take him in the second. But there's no way in hell I would consider him in the first. Like, no way. He's not fast enough. He's just a big-ass dude. So they're talking about a unique skill set, and I do talk about this. These unicorns, these guys where you don't see them all the time. Like, you don't really see... you don't see someone like Darnell Washington's size and abilities that often. And the thing is with unicorns, when the guys, they either bust out or they boom. Like, it's just one of the two. There's no way that it's going to be mediocre. There's no way. There's no path to mediocrity here. If you're unique, you're going to work or you're not. And I guess the Vikings, if they are at number 27, they have that ability to say, hey, we're good enough without him. Let's see if he booms. So I respect it, but, I mean, it's tough for me to get on board. Butte should not be coming out. He had a boomed game finally, like a couple weeks ago, so happy to see him get like over 150 yards. But I just don't see him coming out when, everybody's seen the consistent drops, the hate from his own teammates saying, oh, I'm better than him. Like, I don't know. It's tough for me to get on board. And Kansas City has a very well balanced receiving core at the moment. It's tough to say they're going to break that balance. 29, the Giants go Henry To'oTo'o. I don't think I have a 5th round grade on him. He looks absolutely atrocious. Bills going John Michael Schmitz. I like it. I think that's a mean, nasty blocker who could definitely he could definitely push the Bills into contention or keep them in contention for a long time and push them into the contention of the run game. Like, the run game has been probably the biggest issue, in my opinion, for the Bills. That is certainly a great way to kickstart that progress. And then the Eagles go after one of my favorite corners in the draft, especially value-wise, Garrett Williams. He doesn't exactly fit because he's very well balanced, so don't get me wrong. But I trust him more in man than zone. But, I mean, hey, if you get him at 31, I'd be so happy. Again, I'd be totally willing to go after it. So let's go after the mock draft. Let's do it. Let's continue this. Obviously, shout out to La La Land. If you guys haven't been to it or you guys have it around you should go. Don't be a rookie. This is called a butterfly latte. It tastes like Fruity Pebbles or Fruit Loops. It's incredible, like straight up. But regardless, now that you know that I'm a cultured or probably uncultured swine, pick number 32. We got Bryce Young. We also have Cam Smith. And the fact is, I'm not done on the defense. And this is a guy who I would have drafted anyways. So Antonio Johnson, going to be my dude. That's going to be where I rock. So again, get these superstars for your defense, and that's going to pay off in like exponentially in the long run. Again, this guy can play anywhere. He's a baller. I love him. Big fan. Pick number 33. Now we have Will Levis. Don't get me started. And we also have Will Anderson. So we got the Wills. Now, other positions to target. Linebacker. I do think that we should probably start trying to target a linebacker here. And I'm liking Drew Sanders to this team. He is definitely somebody who, he has good timing. He's a very good overall. Everybody seems to love him, including myself. More of a recent study. I think that that's definitely someone who could be a captain of the defense. Christian Harris is uber athleticism. This guy's a little bit toned down in that aspect, but like increased in terms of his ability to rush the passer, his ability to process the game. I'm a big fan of this. I think that's a very good option for the team. Now, another option I would like to at least bring up is Gervon Dexter or Tyler Davis. Definitely two guys who could continue elevating the roster overall in terms of that defensive front. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter. You choose whoever the hell you want because I think either way, like I think all these guys are really good players. So it's going to say Justin Flo. Again, PFF is just... PFF's annoying me at this point. Again, this is like, they're literally the NFL draft and they haven't updated their own simulator. They have their own guys doing mock drafts. So, you know, I don't get it. I don't. This industry, like I'm telling you, there's a lot of opportunity here. So if you guys want to build a mock draft simulator, hit me up because like I'm willing to do it. And with Broshma, we're starting to try to plan an idea out to actually make one that's actually good year round. We'll see how it goes. Pick number 34. So with the Panthers, obviously you went after CJ Stroud. That's great. You have great guys like Andre Carter on the board. I think would be an awesome. They would be an awesome addition. But I mean, it's kind of sad. I have a couple guys now ahead of him, and one of them is actually from Florida State. So I think they go after that connection, and that is going to be Jared Verse. Really damn good player. He has some injury concerns, so it's realistic that he could be here, but he certainly should be a top 15, top 10 player in the class. He's been performing a little bit worse as of late, but he's coming back from an injury. Naturally, you're not going to play at 100% if you're not 100%. Let's go right here to pick 35. There's a plethora of quarterbacks on the board, and Tanner McKee's one of them. Obviously, you also have guys like Cam Ward in here. We're treating Anthony Richardson like he's returning just because I just don't think he comes out. I don't. If he does, then awesome, but for the sake of this, to keep it fresh, keep it interesting, we're not going to do that. Tanner McKee is definitely worth this type of pick. He's a very good player, and, you know, he beat cancer at 16, so you know that he's one hell of a fighter. So good for him. I love that motor, and he's just a really damn good locker room presence. You've been able to do a lot with someone like Andy Dalton. For some reason, you guys know how to make quarterbacks perform at their peak. I'm just praying to God you get somebody who actually has that talent. And no disrespect to Jameis, but he gets injured all the time. You can't really win when you're not on the field, right? So if you can get somebody of a high talent level or a high consistency, I think that your team can do great. Pick 36, the Browns finally on the board. I think wide receiver certainly is among the positions I would target, and there's a good amount of dudes on the board. However, I think that the best case scenario for the team is to build through the defense, and Gervon Dexter, he just has a ton of potential, and that's somebody who I really want on that interior. I know that you guys drafted last year Perion Winfrey, but it looks like, so I was actually very low on Perion Winfrey originally, and he seemed to really improve at the Senior Bowl. And obviously the ship's not out on him yet. Like, obviously there's so much more he could prove. But the fact is, I don't think he's going to be a defensive stalwart where he's going to be the cornerstone of your defense. You can get someone like Gervon Dexter in there and add that interior pressure. And we already know he was like one of the top defensive players out of his class, out of his high school class. So we know that this guy is going to be, he at least has shown consistency throughout his entire career of being a top tier player. Pick number 37, you got the Seahawks back, and obviously you went after Derek Hall. You've also gone after, who do they go after? Brian. Okay, we're gonna ignore that. Oh, that hurt. But we're gonna actually go offensive line. I know y'all say that we don't exactly need it. I do not care. Andrew Voorhees going to be the guy. He can play tackle as well in case injuries occur. I love that flexibility. I want somebody who can just kick ass in the run game as well as be a very solid pass protector. I think having that balance is going to be the right thing to do for the team. Pick number 38, the Jaguars. You got a wide receiver in the first. You still have some great tight ends here in the second. Sam Laporta could be a great option for you. Obviously, Evan Ingram is a good target, but I don't think he's a long-term one. Now, Osiris Torrance is a guy who I really want to consider here as well. Another really talented offensive lineman. And, this week's going to be a big test for him. So I'm excited to see that. But we're actually going to go with it. We're gonna take him. So it's going to say Jarrett Patterson, but Osiris Torrance, probably my favorite pick to take for the Jaguars all season long. Pick 39, Jalen Carter was added to the Raiders. So with their pick, I really want to look at someone like Brian Branch here. I think that you also have a plethora of other corners who are really good here. So it really is like up to your discrepancy as to who you want. Eli Ricks is going to be coming out too. I think that he's phenomenal. And I mean, it really is up to you. But I'm going to go Clark Phillips here. I like Clark Phillips. I would like to see him on this team. Very versatile. He lit up 150 recently, but again, players have bad games. Like, it just happens. And I think that most of his games have been spectacular. So I love it. Pick number 40, the Steelers are back. And we've gone after Keely Ringo. There's still some studs on the board, including a guy who I traded up in the first 4 in Javon Foster. Anton Harrison might fit a little bit better, but I love the potential of Javon Foster. He's my tackle 1. Like, what can I say? He's a really good player. Pick 41, the Bears. Obviously went Broderick Jones in the first. I think with this pick, Andre Carter would be such a stud. You could put him in there with Travis Gibson. Obviously, Robert Quinn's getting a lot older. I mean, like, hell yes. I'm with a capital H, hell yes. Love him. Pick number 42. So it's unfortunate you took Trent Simpson, because I think a great player for this team would possibly be Jacoby Windman. I'm a huge fan of him. But corner 2 is a priority here, and someone who fits very well, in my opinion, Tyreek Stevenson. Really good player. So obviously he's 6 foot, 212 pounds. Nice and press. Obviously he's very strong. He can pretty much run man-to-man versus anybody. And again, you've seen how vulnerable you guys are without his talent there. I think it's great. Pick number 43 via San Francisco. We have the Carolina Panthers back on the board. Analyzing who we just got in Jared Verse. Now you have Jared Verse. You also have CJ Stroud. It's up to you guys where honestly you want to go with this pick. But personally, I mean, damn, Anton Harrison. Can you imagine adding Anton Harrison and just putting him as a guard just because you can? I mean, this team's a loaded, man. I'm trying to think. You could go running back here. Honestly, that would not be bad at all. Like, Blake Corum would be great, but Jahmyr Gibbs, like, imagine getting all these extra picks, saving all this money, and then you get to have Jahmyr Gibbs pretty much be a free replacement. I think it's worth it. I really do. So Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be the target here. Pick 44, this is going to be Blake Corum. I know that you guys say you have a lot of dudes, but straight up, I think Blake Corum is a monster, and he's kind of what James Conner's been for you. And you've seen how successful that is, but I believe he'll stay a lot healthier. So for me, I think that's just going to be your best course of action. Pick number 45 for Washington. I think corner. Oh, we already went Joey Porter. Damn, you could probably go Eli Ricks too. To be fair, but if you are sitting here at 45, Noah Sewell is definitely intriguing me. I think I might want to go Anton Harrison here. I think I really like being able to add even more prowess to the offensive line. He's a very talented player, played left tackle and right, so you have that balance. I think that's going to be a very good move for the team. You have the Packers, who did they take? They took Peter Skoronski. Big fan of that one too. I think going after a weapon is going to be the best case scenario for the team, and Sam Laporta is a stud. I think it's certainly worth taking him at this point. Pick 47. We still have some top-tier edge rushers on the board, including someone who I have in the top 10. This is probably where he's going to go. But, this is where he's going to go. Isaiah McGuire, just unbelievable stud. Of course, I have to see around the camera, RIP. But he's going to be the guy who just comes in and just shreds for Bill Belichick. It is what it is, man. He's going to just go off. Pick number 48, Paris Johnson has joined the Colts. So for their next pick, I'm going to go after Eli Ricks here. I mean, I just love the potential. Obviously, you can go Brian Branch, but Eli Ricks, I mean, the guy who was targeted, I think, 10 times, allowed 1 reception. So great for him. Pick 49, Buccaneers, went Hendon Hooker. We'll move past that. I think running back probably is another position that they should target. Again, I think that's the way you're going to build the lifeblood of your team. But when Brian Branch is on the board, I'm just not going to take any chances. I really am just going to say, hey, I could put you anywhere, so I want to just take you and be able to do with you as I will. Brian Branch, I love the versatility, very talented player. Pick 50 for the Rams. There's ungodly tackle talent on the board, including Darnell Wright, who I think is better than Blake Freeland at the moment. So that's exactly where we're going to go. He can play right or left tackle, has started at both, and he's been able to perform very well at both. So seeing a new face there for the Rams. Pick number 51 for the Chargers. They went after Michael Mayer in the first, which again, I'm not a fan of going after them in the first. But this is Jacoby Windman, and we're just gonna select a fake edge rusher here. Who am I not gonna take? We're not gonna take Nolan Smith, so we're gonna be taking Jacoby Windman, who I have as a first-round pick. I think he's a stud as a linebacker. A lot of people doubt him, but I really do think he's that special. When you have someone like Khalil Mack there, I'm sure he can become even better, even more skilled. And honestly, the floor for a linebacker on this team is not very high, so being able to get somebody who could bust out, probably a good move. I like it. Pick number 52, Ravens. You guys did not take a corner before, and you guys are now. And it's not going to be Storm Duck. It's going to be my number 2 corner, Jalen Jones. I think it's a great option for the team as a whole. Pick number 53 for the Seahawks. Are they back again? Jesus. Did they have a pick earlier? They did. They have Denver's first and second. Oh, my. So you got Voorhees, you have Derek Hall, and then you also have you have Brian Bresee, right? So with all that, I think going after Noah Sewell here would be a great move. Again, you're getting a big linebacker to move in there with Jordan Brooks. I think it's a very, very wise decision. For the Dolphins, second pick, obviously you got Bijan with your first, and it is what it is. Bijan's a very good player. I think DB certainly should be the position to target for this team. I'm not seeing anybody really worth it. Chris Abrams-Drain is a slot corner / safety. I don't know if I really want to take the risk of him not fitting the way he should. Now, linebacker certainly is another position I'd like to look at. I'd love Jack Campbell on this team. I really would. He is a great leader. He's worth a second-round pick, in my opinion, like a late second. And again, we're not picking until mid to late third. So I'm going to take it, man. I'm a big fan. Big fan. Jack Campbell. I mean, I have Tyron Hopper above him, but he's just a different build. He's an edge rushing linebacker. Jack Campbell is actual commander of the defense. He looks like a very stout dude. Certainly somebody who I have as a day 2 guy. Pick 55, Christian Gonzalez has joined the Bengals. Therefore, I'm still looking at offensive line for them. I really am. And Blake Freeland's on the board. I would love to test him as a tackle guard hybrid. I would love to put him as a guard in the short run and then move him to tackle if either you need to replace Jonah or if injuries occur, which they do every single year. So I'm going to continue bolstering my offensive front. Pick number 56 for the Titans. I mean, you went after Jackson Smith and Jigba in the first. You don't really need many other positions besides offensive line. And I don't really think there's any more offensive tackles that I would take. Yeah, they don't even have an option for me to take offensive tackle anymore. Looking at other positions, I mean, again, it's like defensive interior. Defensive interior would not be a bad position to continue targeting. Like, I do think you guys have some veterans in there. Tyler Davis would be a stud. I mean, you could go edge rusher here. It doesn't say there's any more linebackers, but I do have some extra linebackers that I do want to take. Oh, this is a tough one. I'm actually going to go Tyron Hopper for this team. It's going to say Jermaine Lowell, but that's just because it is what it is. But for the Titans, going with Tyron Hopper, he's a blitzing linebacker. I love his versatility and his coverage ability. He's just a really, really good linebacker. He struggles, sure, against the run sometimes, but honestly, I think that he really can be something special if he's in the right system. And when you're in the late second, beggars can't be choosers. It's a very good value player, and you just got to make it work. Pick number 57 for the Jets. I'm a huge fan of going after this. J.L. Skinner. J.L. Skinner's a great player. You know, you have offensive line now. Don't think he's probably going to ever start, but, you know, it is what it is. Now you have a guy who can play safety or can play linebacker. You know, I think that you can really make him into whatever you want. He's pretty much a better version of Hamza Nasir-Al-Din, who you guys have as a linebacker. So J.L. Skinner is going to be my type of guy. I also think Hamza's up for a contract, so do with that as you will. Pick number 58, the Cowboys are back, and with their first pick, they went after DeJuan Jones. Not a fan, but, you know, is what it is. I think corner certainly should be on the table for the team, and probably is going to be the route I go. It's corner or wide receiver, and they do have some really good wide receivers left on the board. I think that'd be pretty fun. So it's down to Xavier Hutchinson, who kind of plays more in the slot, but also boundary. But I actually want to continue adding height to this team, and it's not Tyler Harrell. It is going to be Justin Shorter. Big fan of him. He's a stud, man. Everybody's going to start rewatching him. They're like, oh, wow, this guy's taking a big step up. I'm a huge fan. Pick number 59. Oh, man, corner definitely is something I really do want to get for this team, but I just can't. Simply put, I just can't. I'm going to go after a running back for them. You know, you got Deuce Vaughn here. You got Sean Tucker or Devon Achane. Choose whichever one that you guys want. I'm going to go after Deuce, man. I love him. I love him to death. Not exactly the guy who exactly replaces Alexander Madison, but sometimes it's okay to take a quick change. It's okay to make like a slight adjustment. For the Chiefs, it's down to edge rusher as well as defensive interior, and I really do think Tyler Davis is special. I think he could be defensive tackle too, so I'm going to go with that and secure that for my team. Pick 61 for the Giants. You know, hold on. What happened to the Chiefs? Oh, it was Kayshon Boutte at the end of the first. So for the Giants, you guys went Henry To'oTo'o. Let's just pretend that did not happen. I'm a huge fan of Chris Abrams-Drain to this team. I really am. I think that he's a very talented player. You know, you could go wide receiver. You could go another tight end because poor Daniel Bellinger has freaking eye socket fractured. So RIP to that. I mean, it wouldn't be a bad choice to go after a top-tier tight end. It'd be actually kind of fun. But, I mean, cornerback, I'm not going after Caillou at this point. Chris Abrams-Drain is really good. And again, I've been doing this the past couple drafts. You guys are notorious for taking, in day 2, these slot corners and being able to put them everywhere. Chris Abrams-Drain's worth taking. Like, I didn't think Cordell Flott was. I didn't think Aaron Robinson was when you had Darnay Holmes already. So, I think finally this guy's actually worth the value. Pick number 62 for the Bills. Oh my God, I have first-round dudes on the board. I have 2 first-round edge rushers still left on the board, and I can't take either of them right here. Obviously, I'd be trading out with the Giants. I'd be probably trading out with the Vikings to be able to take these guys. But with pick 62, you've obviously been able to target a corner. You targeted a center with John Michael Schmitz. So, you can't take B.J. Ojulari here, and you can't do it for the Eagles either. Same thing with Will McDonald, who I have very high grades on. Like, it actually sucks. Like, damn, I really want to. We're going to add another playmaker here. We're going to go Jaheim Bell. You know, just adding him to Dawson Knox. I think adding that would be a really fun option for the team. And then ending it off, the Eagles, you guys have Garrett Williams as well as Miles Murphy, which are 2 top 10 to top 15 players on my board, including the number 1 overall player on my board. Now, sitting here at pick number 63, what else can we do for you guys? I mean, I'm looking at BJ Ojolari. It's like, fuck. I mean, how can I just give up on that? I just don't know. Like, can you? Corner's not good enough anymore. Safety, I'm not going after. Defensive interior, no. Like, there's nobody worth it, at least. If Tyler Davis, so if I ended up going after an edge rusher right here with the Chiefs, absolutely Tyler Davis, run the damn pick in. Like sprint it. I do not care. But I'm definitely not going to go tight end. I don't know why the hell I clicked that. Running back, definitely, Zach Evans, Devon A-Chain. Those are going to be the dudes who I want. I think you got to go A-Chain at this point. 4.24 speed, going to be a very versatile player in screen game and stuff. Kind of what you want from Kenny Gainwell. So that is going to be the video, everybody. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you on the far side.